If you've ever read a newspaper and you've flicked to the section with the cartoons, or maybe you've been in a newsagent where you've seen just a stack of kind of dated birthday cards, then you'll be deeply familiar with the phenomenon of baby boomer comics. Baby boomer comics are exactly what they sound like. Comics drawn by baby boomers for baby boomers. Now, if you've ever lay awake at night wondering, could I ever draw a baby boomer comic? Then this video is for you. I'm gonna show you how to draw a baby boomer comic in 4 steps. Phase 1, themes. Now, before we even pick up the pen, it's important to analyze the central themes of baby boomer comics. We'll go through a few examples. Some I've taken from the subreddit Boomer Humour, which is great if you want a deep scroll, and just a few others from the internet. Alrighty, let's pick them apart. Themes. Now, the first bleedingly obvious, unavoidable theme that you notice is that wife equals bad. Give a man a fish and he eats for a day. Teach him how to fish and he can avoid the wife for a whole weekend. There you go, great testament to a loveless marriage. Speaking of marriage, what happens when you walk down the aisle, baby boomers? I now pronounce you husband and wife. Let the nagging begin, because the wife nags. Here's basically the same joke. I didn't like the tone of your I do. Very original. If anyone objects to this union, says the priest, and here the groom's hand has shot straight in the air because he objects to the marriage, because wife is bad. She's doing all the driving, I'm just the one behind the wheel. I think what's more offensive than just straight up hating your wife is that handwriting. Look at that, let's get a little close up. Ew. Hey buddy, still fighting with the wife? Then Kermit says, not anymore. As you can see, there are pork chops, the implication being that Kermit has murdered his wife and turned her into food. That's freaking normal, isn't it? If you have that desire in your head, don't draw a comic, go to therapy. The only one that I've seen worse than this is this one. It's not a hand dryer, it's a gun. The guy's literally gonna kill his wife. So boomer cartoonists hate their wife, but they also hate phones. So here we've got a detective for a murder and it says no one saw anything because they're looking at their phones. Are you going to read a book the whole time? That's so rude, says the idiot on their phone. Here's a piece of gold. Weird. Look, Dad, someone printed out a bunch of tweets and then they added extra characters to all the words. And then the dad says, or as I call it, a book. You know that second speech bubble there? Very necessary to complete that joke. Very, very necessary. Phones are bad. Here we've got a millennial who says, I'm outraged and offended. There's a US flag printed on my EBT card. I don't hate this comic because it's funny, technically. He's annoyed at the nationalism of the United States, but the United States is giving him food, so he's being entitled. That's like a straw man argument at best. However, it's technically a good joke. But what ruins it is the fact that they've just overdone it with all the other cues. So they've gone like all these piercings, just like weird face tattoos. Just in case you didn't know he hated the US, he's got the US flag literally crossed out. That is lazy, lazy symbolism. But it's not as lazy as literally just having Antifa on his hoodie. Just in case you couldn't identify what type of fella this guy is. Millennials. Bad. Here the old man says, when I was your age, I defeated the Nazis in Holland. And the young idiot says, on Xbox or PlayStation. An example of a very real conversation. Also, how sick is war? War's sick. We should kill people. Now, the only thing worse than young people in these boomer cartoons is their diets. God, I hate dietary restrictions. Is Jesus doing the bread and fish thing? Has that fish been tested for mercury? I can't eat that, I'm a vegan. Is that bread gluten-free? Oh dear. Do you have any gluten-free treats, lady? Do you have vegan chocolate? I can't eat nuts. Organic only. Oh, this is a hilarious take on Halloween. I'm lactose intolerant. I'm caramel phobic. Gender neutral candy. Oh, that's the best one. Gender neutral candy. I swear to God, when boomers can't think of a joke, they just say gender jokes. Gender neutral, or my candy identifies as a. God, get a new joke, you fucking morons. Dietary restrictions are bad. Now, just to touch briefly back on the whole gender identity thing, the son has given the mum Happy Mother's Day a card. You assumed my gender. Sorry, I forgot you're a Democrat. You have almost no female representation here. Father's Day cards, basically the same joke. Another cracking political piece. I've been separated from my parents because of Trump's Nazi border policy, right? No, they got caught with a plastic straw. Okay, so environmentalism is also bad. You know, I'm just gonna put a blanket political statement here. Change equals bad. Okay, so looking at that, there is a lot of things they don't like. What about stuff that they do like? The dog ate your Viagra. The joke here is that the dog is having sex with all the other animals. Sorry to spoil the fun, Barry, but I asked you to pluck the turkey. Barry has misheard the penguin and is now having sex with the turkey. Hilarious. I'm just gonna go ahead and put sex is funny. There's a positive one. I'll end on a final baby boomer example. Here's a doctor and a young, terrified woman with no clothes on. And the doctor is saying, I've given you a thorough examination, Miss Fairbody, and I'm pleased to say that your ear infection has cleared up. The joke here, just in case you don't get it, is that this woman, who once again is very scared in the picture, has trusted this doctor who's abused his position of power to make her take her clothes off. Boomer funny. So we have our list of themes here. Wife bad, phones bad, millennials bad, dietary restrictions bad, change bad, sex funny. But how do we draw it? Well, that's where phase 2 comes in. Labels. Let's take a good hard look at the cartoonist Ben Garrison. He's the poster boy for progress bashing boomer humour. Now looking at all these, got a bit of a question for you. What do they all have in common? That's right, everything is labelled. Just in case you didn't know that this Obama looking character who's dancing on the grave of honour, decency, truth, justice and transparency was in fact Obama. Ben Garrison's gone ahead and labelled him Obama. Thanks, Ben. Another political one, here we've got Bernie Sanders. Thank God he's labelled Bernie. What a necessary artistic decision. Ben Garrison, you must have a lot of faith in your audience's comprehension skills. Now, on top of being condescending, the other cool thing about labels is you can actually add jokes just in case you weren't confident in the original joke that you're making. Here we have an iconic piece from Gary Markstein. The dad saying, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. To fetch a crummy pail of water, says this child, they should have been fetching Pokemon creatures. Okay, I agree with you. They should have been fetching Pokemon creatures. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but there was actually a game on your phone called Pokemon Go. Gary Markstein in this comic has done what in the industry is called a reference, where he's put I love Pokemon Go on a shirt, which by the way, not really draped, more just sitting there. More like Gary Markstein being like, hey guys, I know that Pokemon Go exists. I'm not some boomer, I actually get it. I get it, guys. The problem that I do have with this label is that it doesn't actually add anything. We already know that the kid likes Pokemon creatures, and then bottom right, which is where your eye's naturally gonna go after you read the speech bubbles, that's where you want another punchline to be. But instead we just get the same information about the child. It doesn't add anything. We don't get a second dimension on this kid's personality. The best thing that a piece of information in the bottom right of a comic could do would be to actually change what you've read in the speech bubbles. So if the shirt, instead of saying I love Pokemon Go, literally said I love boomer comics, all of a sudden this image would go from cringy to self-aware. And that is the power of a label. A power that sadly has been ignored. But hey, I'm not here to criticize, so let's just keep going. We'll move on to phase 3, aesthetics. You might have noticed as we scrolled through some of those boomer cartoons that their noses were big. Like really, really big. Cartooning is just like any creative craft. It has been stylistically liberated by the internet. Just like how in recent years we've seen an explosion in tattoo design diversity, we've seen it in cartooning as well. But that is no excuse for the 80% of boomers who straight up copy Gary Larson. What is up with that? Here's a Gary Larson Far Side comic, and here's another cartoonist that I bought from Aldi. Big nose, little eyes, chunky bodies. So now that we know our themes, we know to label everything, and we know that everyone's gonna have a big nose, little or no eyes, and really chunky bodies, it's time to put them all together. Phase 4, draw it. I'm gonna draw it in a rectangular frame so it can fit a newspaper. I'll have a family, so I'll go dad, mum, and 2 children. I'll make the parents chunky with their big noses, and I'll give the kids beanies, huge noses, and you won't be able to see their eyes. I want this to look busy. I want too many speech bubbles. I think I'm gonna have the main conversation as Earth to wife, read a book. Then the wife saying, I am, it's called the Facebook. Then one of the children is saying, a book? What kind of app is that? Can I download it from my Mario games? And then I want a secondary conversation to be going on. So the dad's saying, you look like a dang millennial. And the mum says, I guess I identify as a millennial now. Tweet, tweet. We've got 3 buzzwords just there, millennial, identify, and tweet. Then one of the children, who's watching Bernie Sanders on their phone, is saying, sigh, we millennials prefer the term bigotry impaired. I'll make the food both vegan and nut allergy labeled. And then I'll put a signature that looks just like theirs in the corner. And that is how you draw a baby boomer cartoon. My friggin' word, that's ugly as fuck. Here's a closer look at it. Soak it in, you friggin' millennials. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little thing about how to make a baby boomer cartoon. Subscribe if you're new. Check me out on YouTube, Insta, Facebook, Mario games, everywhere. Catch ya.